From the Truth Report Studios, I'm Alex Truth.
And I'm Maya Clarity. Tonight, we're peeling back the layers of power and policy that shape the lives of migrants and those caught in the crosshairs of global instability. We're not just reporting headlines, we're dissecting the systemic issues.
We'll take you from the grim realities inside IC detention to the terrifying violence driving displacement in Nigeria, and then examine the judicial battles fought over illegal deportations. These stories, though geographically distant, reveal a chilling pattern of human rights abuses and state overreach.
We'll expose how governments and powerful institutions often prioritize control and political agendas over human dignity, leaving a trail of trauma and injustice. This is about more than individual incidents, it's about the very fabric of our shared humanity being stretched to its breaking point.
Stay with us, as we delve into the truth behind the headlines.
Our first story takes us into the heart of the U.S. immigration detention system, where a young Palestinian protester describes an ordeal that many have called out as deeply dehumanizing. According to Al Jazeera, Palestinian Colombia protester Leqaa Kordia has publicly detailed her harrowing experience in ICE custody.
That's right, Maya. Kordia, a student and activist involved in the Columbia University protests, reported being chained to a hospital bed after suffering a seizure while under Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, detention. Her account shines a harsh light on medical care and restraint protocols within these facilities.
This isn't an isolated incident, Alex. Human rights organizations, including the ACLU and Human Rights Watch, have repeatedly documented allegations of inadequate medical care and excessive use of restraints within ICE detention centers. For a patient, especially post-seizure, to be physically shackled to a bed raises serious ethical questions about patient welfare versus security protocols.
Indeed. The standard of care should prioritize the patient's health and dignity. Chaining someone to a hospital bed, particularly when they are vulnerable, speaks volumes about the culture of these facilities. It suggests a default to maximum security measures, often at the expense of basic human consideration, irrespective of the individual's specific risk assessment.
And let's not forget the context. Kordia is a Palestinian protester. There's a broader concern that political activism, especially when tied to sensitive geopolitical issues like the conflict in Palestine, can lead to heightened scrutiny and harsher treatment by law enforcement and immigration authorities. This confluence of factors makes her case even more alarming.
Absolutely, Maya. When you have a system that is already opaque and subject to criticism, and then you inject political motivations, the potential for abuse skyrockets. It raises the question, was her treatment purely a matter of protocol, or was there an element of punitive intent tied to her identity and activism?
That's the critical inquiry. Who ultimately benefits from such practices? It serves to instill fear, deter future protests, and reinforce state power over individuals, particularly those deemed other or undesirable. It sends a clear message about the consequences of dissent and challenges to authority.
And who loses? Obviously, individuals like Leqaa Kordia, who endure physical and psychological trauma. But beyond that, we all lose. When due process and human dignity are eroded within government systems, it chips away at the foundational principles of a just society for everyone.
This narrative of dehumanization and control connects directly to broader power structures. It highlights how immigration enforcement agencies, ostensibly designed to manage borders, can become instruments for suppressing dissent and exerting control over marginalized populations, often operating with minimal public accountability.
It's a stark reminder that the fight for human rights isn't just happening at borders, it's happening inside detention centers, where the most vulnerable among us are often stripped of their basic dignities. The chaining of a patient post-seizure is a symptom of a much deeper, systemic problem.
Our next story takes us halfway across the world, to a region grappling with escalating violence, a grim reality reported by The Guardian. Armed assailants, often referred to as bandits, launched devastating raids on 3 villages in northwest Nigeria's Niger state, killing at least 30 people and burning homes and businesses.
This horrific incident, which occurred early on a Saturday, saw attackers riding in on motorbikes, indiscriminately shooting residents in the Borga local government area, near the border with Benin Republic. It's another tragic chapter in the ongoing violence plaguing this part of Nigeria.
These aren't just isolated criminal acts, Alex. The term banditry often understates the scale and organization of these groups. They are heavily armed and engage in sophisticated kidnappings for ransom, cattle rustling, and extortion. This isn't petty crime, it's a regional crisis with profound implications.
And the root causes are complex. We're talking about a confluence of factors: pervasive poverty, weak governance, a proliferation of small arms, and escalating resource conflicts between herders and farmers, which are increasingly exacerbated by climate change. It's a perfect storm of instability.
Precisely. The state's inability to provide security or justice in these remote areas creates a vacuum that these armed groups exploit. Communities are left defenseless, trapped in a cycle of violence that forces countless people from their homes, turning them into internally displaced persons or refugees.
This is a critical point when we talk about immigration. While this story doesn't explicitly mention migrants fleeing Nigeria, it depicts the exact kind of pervasive violence that acts as a powerful push factor for migration. People don't leave their homes lightly, they flee when staying means risking their lives.
Absolutely. Who benefits from this chaos? The bandits themselves profit from ransoms and stolen goods, exploiting a desperate populace. But the broader beneficiaries of this instability are harder to pinpoint, though certainly those who traffic in weapons and exploit regional instability.
And the immense losses are borne by the innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. They lose their loved ones, their homes, their livelihoods, and their sense of security. The long-term consequences include widespread displacement, food insecurity, and the complete breakdown of social structures.
Connecting this to broader power structures, it highlights the devastating impact of state failure. When a government cannot protect its citizens, it fosters an environment where non-state actors can wield immense power, directly contributing to regional instability and the global refugee crisis.
These attacks underline how local conflicts in places like Nigeria have global reverberations, driving migration flows that eventually reach distant shores. Understanding the root causes of displacement, like this unchecked violence, is crucial for any meaningful discussion about immigration.
Our final story brings us back to the intricate and often brutal landscape of U.S. immigration policy, focusing on a personal account of a Venezuelan deportee. The Guardian reports on Luis Muñoz Pinto, whose illegal deportation under the Trump administration led him to a notoriously brutal prison in El Salvador.
Muñoz Pinto, now 27, was among several Venezuelan men whose expedited deportation was challenged in court. A U.S. federal judge, James Boasberg, has now ruled that some of these men must be allowed to return to the U.S. to fight their cases. It's a glimmer of hope, but one shadowed by past trauma.
This ruling is a significant moment, Alex, for its affirmation of due process rights, even for non-citizens. The Trump administration's aggressive immigration policies, like Remain in Mexico, often circumvented these very protections, leading to situations where individuals were deported without proper legal review.
To be clear, Muñoz Pinto was not simply returned to Venezuela, he was sent to El Salvador, a country with which he had no connection, and placed in a prison widely known for its harsh conditions. This wasn't merely deportation, it was outsourcing detention to a third country's notoriously brutal system.
The notoriously brutal prison refers to the severe conditions within El Salvador's justice system, particularly under President Nayib Bukele's crackdown on gangs. Human rights organizations have documented widespread abuses, arbitrary arrests, and inhumane conditions, turning these prisons into places of extreme suffering.
The judge's ruling likely centers on the violation of fundamental due process rights, meaning these individuals were denied fair hearings or adequate legal counsel before being sent into such perilous situations. This underscores the judiciary's vital role in checking executive overreach in immigration matters.
For individuals like Luis Muñoz Pinto, while the judge's order offers vindication, the trauma remains. His statement, "I'm not over that nightmare yet," speaks volumes about the lasting psychological impact of illegal detention and deportation. It's a scar that doesn't simply fade with a legal victory.
So, who benefits from such aggressive, arguably illegal, deportation policies? Administrations seeking to project an image of strict border enforcement, potentially private detention facilities. The political capital of appearing tough on immigration often outweighs the human cost.
And who loses? Clearly, individuals like Muñoz Pinto, whose lives are upended and traumatized. But society also loses when the rule of law is disregarded, when human rights are trampled, and when judicial oversight is necessary to correct governmental overreach. It erodes trust in the system itself.
This case profoundly connects to the broader power structures of U.S. immigration policy. It illustrates how executive administrations can use their authority to bypass legal norms, and how the legal system, though imperfect, can sometimes serve as a crucial last line of defense for human rights.
It's a powerful testament to the fact that immigration is not just a policy debate, it's a matter of human lives, fundamental rights, and the enduring struggle against systems that can dehumanize and discard individuals without adequate checks and balances.
And now, as we draw these stories together, a chilling pattern emerges from the seemingly disparate events we've covered tonight. From the dehumanizing conditions in ICE custody experienced by Leqaa Kordia, to the brutal violence forcing Nigerians from their homes, and the illegal deportation of Luis Muñoz Pinto, we see a consistent theme.
It's the pervasive presence of state power, often unchecked, leading to human rights abuses. Whether it's direct action by immigration enforcement, or the failure of a government to protect its citizens, the consequences are invariably borne by the most vulnerable, whose dignity and rights are routinely disregarded.
The chaining of a patient like Kordia in a hospital bed is not an anomaly, it's a symptom of a system that often prioritizes control and punishment over care. It speaks to a culture within immigration enforcement where individuals are reduced to numbers or threats, rather than human beings with fundamental rights.
Similarly, the banditry crisis in Nigeria, while seemingly local, highlights the global implications of state failure. The inability of a government to secure its own territory creates the very conditions that force people to become refugees, pushing them into the perilous journey that so often ends in places like ICE detention.
And Luis Muñoz Pinto's illegal deportation underscores the fragility of due process. When governments feel empowered to bypass legal safeguards and send individuals to foreign prisons, it corrodes the very foundation of justice. It reveals a willingness to circumvent law for political expediency.
These aren't isolated failures. They are interconnected threads in a tapestry of systemic issues: inadequate accountability for state actors, a consistent undercurrent of dehumanization in immigration policy, and the devastating impact of global instability on individual lives. We are seeing the human cost of power unchecked.
The truth is, these stories aren't just about immigration, they are about humanity. They are about how we, as a society, choose to treat those who are most vulnerable, those seeking safety, and those whose voices are often silenced by the very systems meant to protect them.
The fight for justice, for dignity, and for basic human rights is ongoing. It demands our unwavering attention and our collective voice. We must continue to push for transparency, accountability, and compassionate policies that truly reflect our values.
Demand answers. Hold power accountable. Stay informed. This has been Truth Report.
Good night.